Everyone. Thanks for joining me for this Rhinebeck, New York sheep and wool recap. I wanted to get out a recap while everything about this past weekend is still fresh in my mind. If I go again next year, I think I will do a recap after getting back from whatever days I attend New York sheep and wool, because I think that would have been really fun and I would have had all of the adrenaline in my body, but I don't know how coherent that would be. I do love watching everyone's recaps that are done like in their Airbnb. But okay, here we go. We got into town Thursday afternoon. We stay in Hillsdale. It's Hillsdale, New York. It's not that far from Hudson, New York, and not that far from Great Barrington, Massachusetts. It's right in the middle. It's a lake community. My husband has a little lake house there that he uses, or used since the house is now being sold, as an Airbnb. So it was a good opportunity for us to be there before the house is sold, and a nice jumping off point to many of the things that we love doing in the Hudson Valley. And of course, one of them has now become, for me, attending New York Sheep and Wool. One of the other things that we love doing when we're in this area is attending at least one day of it's called an R&R day at Kripalu Yoga Retreat Center. I will put up a couple pictures here. This is what we did. This is what we chose to do on Friday. It was a hard choice because I knew that there was a Woolen Affair and Indie Untangled. Those are probably one of the two that I would have attended. But it being one of the last times that we'll have this particular house to stay at, and it is so close to Kripalu, and Kripalu is one of my very special places to be, we really wanted to go. So that's what we did. And I'll make sure I link the website for Kripalu, because Kripalu is a yoga retreat center. They have programs running through the weekend, through the week, but you can also just go for a day, and they'll have a schedule of different programs that they're holding in the morning and afternoon. They'll always have a guided hike, and you eat their wonderful organic, some vegan, some vegetarian, some non, throughout the day. And that's so special because I never come out of being at Kripalu without picking up new recipes, new ideas, and that's exactly what happened. But let me talk about the knitting project that I had brought with me, that I was working on, and that I took with me to Kripalu. So, because it's a bit of a story. So this is the weekend. I was knitting on the Weekender hat by Petite Knit. I have decided that probably if I want to do a ribbed hat, that 2x2 is more interesting to me than 1x1. I just somehow can't bear the 1x1 anymore. So this is my first time doing the Weekender hat, and I had some beautiful double Sunday in this poppy red that I'd picked up. You might be noticing the decreases on this hat, because this is where it all went wrong. So I knit up to the length that you're supposed to before starting decreases. And before we went to Kripalu, the only thing I had, unfortunately, was the double pointed needles that I'd thrown in my bag. I think this is a US size 4. I normally would begin decreases on my shorties set, but I didn't bring those with me. I should have. I was working with shorty needles, but I didn't bring the shorty cables. I should have, though, because on double pointed needles, which I will use at the very, very end, it went wrong really fast. And also I didn't have the correct number of stitch markers, because this is divided into 4 sections, but you need stitch markers on either side of a few stitches. So that went wrong. And then the double pointed needles always go wrong. And so I end up with, I just wanted to finish it so that if it was cold outside, I could wear it on Saturday morning. I was only planning on attending New York Sheep and Wool on Saturday and possibly Sunday, but I knew it would probably only be Saturday. So I had this with me. I was very disappointed about the way that the decreases ended, but I just had to finish it for Saturday, and it would have been fine, but I actually didn't need it. It was cold in the morning, but I had a ball cap on and my sleeveless gloves, mittens. I am going to unravel the decreases. Do check out their website because they have many of their recipes that they use for their food in on the website. Saturday was New York Sheep and Wool. I will put up some photos of what I was wearing. I did wear my Olga Patano cushion vest. I did get people asking me about my vest. That was so fun. I didn't expect it. I don't know why, but a lot of people commented on my striped Sophie scarf, which I really didn't like. I just threw it on because I was chilly. But that was fun. That was so fun to like actually have people saying something about it. I will talk more about that project and some other things I'm working on in my next catch-up video. I like to get to New York Sheep and Wool. The one other time I've been there, when a couple minutes after the gates open. So my husband drops me off because he has running around to do. He's always doing something with the house, and now even more because it is going up for sale. And so I have to be dropped off, and that means that I want to be usually in the parking lot being dropped off by like 9:15, which is what we did this year. It's crowded. There's a lot of people that are going in, but the gate that we went in wasn't the main gate because we weren't parking. It was like some other gate. So there was no line at the gate. I could spend some nice quiet time with the first set of animals that I encountered going in the back way. That was great because as you keep going further down into the barns, the whole barns area, and the barn with the alpacas and the goats, it gets more crowded. But if you're going that early, it's really wonderful, and I highly recommend spending time with the animals at that point and also later. But at that point, you can really spend some nice quality time with all of the sheeps and reading what their breeds are and interacting and saying hi and just watching and petting and feeling their wonderful coats of wool. And then from there, I went to the other barn of alpacas. There were probably some llamas there, but they are mostly alpacas. And then the goats and cashmere goats and pygmy goat. Glorious. I'm assuming I'm putting up some photos of that. I went into a booth pretty early on that had Tidal Yarns in it. Tidal Yarns is a booth that has all of their samples, I guess, unraveled. I don't know if they sell them that way, but you can see all of their colorways unraveled. And I went in there because Sarah from Fibertrex was going to be in the booth. I saw her there. I couldn't wait to say hi and how much I loved her podcast. That was my first case of being shy, starstruck. Like I didn't want to go up to someone and say like, oh my God, I love your podcast. But I really enjoyed seeing her, but I didn't go up to her. And I thought that was interesting because last year I was so new to everything and I was so new to knitting that I didn't have that experience. I did see people, but I wasn't particularly interested in seeing certain podcasters and whatever. So I thought that was interesting. I thought, wow, I was like really shy. And I wanted to make my way over this year, particularly to the Junction Fiber Mill booth early because I know it gets crammed in there. They are one of the most popular booths at New York Sheep and Wool. I mean, and for good reason. They are Peg and Amanda, the owners of Junction Fiber Mill, are some of the most dynamic, personal, beautiful people that I've ever met through a podcast. And I didn't go into the booth last year. It was really crowded, but I really enjoyed seeing the booth and seeing Peg and Amanda. And again, I've seen them before, but I didn't ask for a photo because I don't know, I just got really, they were so busy with photos that I just enjoyed being in their presence. Because when it's crowded and you enter the booth and you get into like the shoulder to shoulder line of going from the left side to the center to the right side to the checkout, it's such an immersion. And this was the beginning of spending time talking to people about what they were looking at, what they were thinking about. We were looking at colors. And that's like one of the most beautiful things about this festival, is that all day long, you are talking with strangers who you are shoulder to shoulder with, and you're talking about colorways and what do you think about, is this enough of a contrast? And they're helping you pick out a skein of especially the color changing yarn if that's what you're going for. It's so much fun. And then of course, all day you're asking someone or complimenting them on their sweater and asking what pattern it is if you don't know. And that started early on for me, and I'll get to that in a second. But I wanted to show you, I was after making tracks light, because I think that's the sport weight. This is their color changing yarn. I know you guys know this, but I mean, proudly made in White River Junction, Vermont. It's a small batch wool processing mill in the heart of WRJ, started by two sheep farmer friends, Amanda and Peggy, established in 2021. That's insane. This is called Day's End. Of course, it took me so long, not only to choose the colorway, but the skein of the colorway, because if you know anything about color changing yarn, they're all different. I only got one. These are expensive skeins of yarn. It's so light and airy. This is a blend of American-raised fine merino, targhee, and Corriedale. It's sport weight. It's, I think, probably 50 grams, but 50 grams, so whatever 50 grams of a sport weight would be. And I just knew immediately, so this has, you can't probably see it, but it's like a purpley navy blue. So it's like a rich royal navy blue-ish. And I just thought, I'm going to make some other kind of scarf, and I'll use other yarn to go with it because I have a lot of sport weight left over. I don't know yet what this is going to look like. I'm going to look up on Ravelry this colorway to see what other people have used. But I want to be wearing this, I want to be wearing this as an accessory. So that was my idea. I mean, it could be a hat, but I don't know. So I was like, this was what I wanted from the booth. And even though it's very crowded, again, if you just get into the flow, then you'll be fine. That's my recommendation for Junction Fiber Mill crowd. But it was so much fun seeing people say hello. I mean, I did say hello to Peg and Amanda when they weren't engaged with 1,000 people, but I don't know about the photo. I'm already feeling that if I go next year, I'll be more brave. From there, and let me back up. I forgot to say, I'm already forgetting things. I forgot to say that the very first booth I went to was Wing and a Prayer Farmer Tam, and her wonderful crew. I encountered Yun, who I will put a photo of here because we immediately took photos of each other's sweater vests. That's how Rhinebeck Opa, the New York Sheep and Wool, opened for me. She had on a version of the Roosty sweater. I think it's a Marie Wallen, but I'll put that information here, that I went gaga over. So I'm going to be favoriting her project page on Ravelry. And she asked me about my vest. And that's when, in that particular booth, because it was so crowded, and there's so many things to look at in terms of Farmer Tammy's yarn from her flock that I just thought, I cannot, this happened to me last year. I cannot make a decision in this booth. I cannot. I'm just going to have a feast for my eyes. And then I'm going to go over to Sawkill Farm. Same thing happened. They have so many beautiful samples. I'm going to take everything in. And then if I want to order something online, I'll do that. But I didn't want to feel under pressure. And that's how I just then was able to enjoy what I was seeing. From there, I went over to Cece's Wool because I had that written down as like, don't, go over there. And some of their wool, it's Shanico, I think, some of their wool, and they had this tweed, and I'll put an example. I didn't take a photo, but I'll find it on their website or somewhere. And I stared at it for so long, and I was frozen. Like I just couldn't think because I didn't want to just buy a skein of this tweed. So I just thought, let it go, you're fine. Maybe you'll be able to make a decision about something. And that's when I went over to Junction Fiber Mill because I knew that I could make a decision about one skein of this Making Tracks Light. But it was such a wonderful, friendly atmosphere in Cece's Wool also. So from Junction Fiber Mill, I don't know where else I went other than while I was in the barns looking at different things. I was looking for the Woolly Thistle tent because they were outside last year, but then I quickly realized that maybe they didn't have a booth this year because like I saw Battenkill Farms, which I think they were next to last year. I ran into, it was at the, I think it was at the Ewetopia booth. I'm going to show you some Ewetopia yarn in a second. Ewetopia blew me away. I knew they were a company that sourced and dyed their own yarn from their area, which I think is Wisconsin. Yarn dyed in the fleece or in the skein and processed by Ewetopia. And I think they're in Wisconsin. It says 100% Midwest wool. So I definitely knew I wanted to be in that booth. I ran into Kevin and Ray and from Needles at the Ready and Michael from Piece for Piece. And I got so starstruck. I could hardly go up to them, but I did. I at least made myself go up to them and gush and say how much I love them and how much I love their podcast. And I never asked them for a photo because I don't know, I was too nervous. I guess for me at that point, meeting them was enough. And I don't know, I felt self-conscious. Anyway, I'm not going to be like this next year. I'm recording this to my future self if I go. Anyway, it was in and of itself a pleasure. And they commented on what I was wearing. And I think that's so generous because they're meeting so many people. It just made me feel really good. Like that's just the kind of people you would expect them to be, right? I mean, they are everything that you see on their videos, just so generous and big-hearted. And I got to see their vests that they've been talking about, and Michael had his on too. Yeah, just absolute sweethearts, generous with their time. And also they were shopping. I shopped in the Ewetopia booth. I don't know anything about their yarn, so I was just taking it all in and thought, this is where I want to get the rustic, meaning not superwash, non-superwash sock yarn that I was going to get at the Woolly Thistle. Rambler, I think, is their in-house sock yarn. So I picked up sock yarn, which I've already kind of hand skeined up while I was at where we were staying. But, so I'll show you this, but I got 2 skeins of their Ridge Fingering 100% Midwest wool. These are 50 gram skeins, so 200 yards. And let me see if I know what this color is. Don't think I do, but I will put it here because I know I have the band. And I got this color. You're going to start seeing a theme here. I like both of these tones. So this is called Daylily Heather. And of course, it's heathered. It's beautifully heathered. And this is like this rich chocolate, but lighter than chocolate. And I've already started socks. I'll show you what this cuff is made out of in a second, but this is what it's looking like. And you could just see this dimension in this yarn. I use size zeros, and because it's nice and plump yarn, it's a little tougher to knit with, but I knew that. And while I was on this trip, I started this one first. And because I think I'm going to make the heel this color, I was fine with breaking the yarn. But if I decide to make this another color, that's also fine. But it's like 22 rows. Oh, so this lovely yarn is also Ewetopia. This is what it looks like balled up. I did this, hand wound little nugget. This colorway is called, does it have a name? I don't think these have a name. No. So if I can find, this is 50 yards, these little skeins. If I can find this colorway on their website, I will put it here. But doesn't this look like, oh, I'll show it to you in a skein because I picked up 2 of these. I was obsessed. Let me see. It just says Ridge Fingering Mini. Look what it looks like in the skein. I mean, is that not so cool? I love it. And then I've got another mini skein. Again, this doesn't have a, but this looks even more like vintage 70s. And that'll just be so much fun to play with. 50 grams. 50 yards, I'm sorry, not 50 grams. So that'll just be so much fun to play with socks. And I do love the rustic nature of this. I'm not wearing my socks in shoes all day at this point. I do intend this year on wearing them around the house in like house slippers. Yeah, I just wear them around the house at this point. So, and even if I had them in boots, if I can wear these in boots, which I would love to, it's worth it for me not to have the nylon in the sock yarn, just so that I can use this type of fingering weight, which I love. Okay. So I'm still at Ewetopia. I'm overwhelmed. I'm having fun. People are just having a ball there. Fingering weight yarn, I did see, and I was willing to get this. I think this is superwash, yeah, because I just went crazy for this color. This is their Wisco sock. It's 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. I mean, look how much fun. This is called Tapestry. Let me get out of the way. Oh my God. I don't know. There was something that spoke to me about this. I cannot wait to try this. I just went crazy. It's going to be so much fun. Okay, here's where I really went off the rails. So I'm just buying single skeins of stuff, especially sock yarn. I feel safe with that. It's fine. But I don't know. This might be the one questionable purchase that I made. Surrey and silk. I bought the same colorway Tapestry in their Surrey alpaca lace. I mean, what am I doing? I mean, it's like a cloud. Can you see that? Oh my God. Yeah, what am I going to do with this? It's 65% Surrey alpaca, 35% silk. So a nice content of silk, 355 yards, 50 grams. I cannot wait to make swatches holding. So I was talking to someone at Ewetopia. We were like, what do I hold this with? denim colored blue, like the light blue that I'm using in my Frankie sweater, or gray or navy blue. I don't know. I have to just beige. I don't know. I'm just going to start swatching. I tried to find this on Ravelry and it's not there anywhere to look at. I don't know. I will determine how I'm going to use this once I start swatching and see how it shows up in different colors. Yeah, this is, I would say, one of the off the rails purchase that I made, where I'm like, what am I doing? But I had so much fun. I really did. Okay, that was my Utopia journey. I'm telling you, that was the most fun I did. I continued to do a lot of walking around. I took a break. I took a lunch break out on the hill, which I found. I think I found because I saw people standing there and it was lunchtime. So I sat down. I had packed a peanut butter and jelly. I highly recommend doing that, by the way, bringing your own lunch, even if you don't have a car. I didn't have a car. If you have one, you could just put some ice into something and chill something and whatever. But if you're not interested in chilling something, or you don't have a cooler because you're staying at an Airbnb, I always make a PB&J and I freeze it so that when I'm taking it out of the freezer in the morning and putting it in my bag, it's not just a regular sandwich getting steamy hot all day. And I knew it wasn't going to be really, really hot, but just a tip about that. It gives you some time before it would ever get soggy. The other thing I do making the PB&J is I lightly toast the bread that I'm using, let it cool, and then make the PB&J so that, again, you're not going to have a soggy bread situation. I always bring nuts with me, an RX bar just for a snack. I cut it up into pieces and I put it in a little container or tinfoil so that if I just need something between morning and lunchtime, I have the RX bar, but it's already in pieces, so I don't have to like try to unwrap it and bite it and all of that. Yeah, and like maybe a hard candy or something like that that could just keep you going. And I had some water with me. On the hill, I met some really cool people because we're all just sitting there eating lunch. And one of them saw my Pikes Peak sticker on my backpack and asked about that. So we had a great conversation. She's biked up Pikes Peak and I've hiked up Pikes Peak. And then they had this whole thing going on the hill where people, I guess, brought stitch markers and they had them in a little bag, and then they make this like stitch marker exchange. And this woman, the cyclist, had brought a little bag and they do a bag exchange, and maybe there's stuff in the bag, I don't know, but I wonder if that's on their website and like it's like an event that you sign up for or that you know about, because I had so much fun watching this whole thing. So just for your information, that was going on. And then I was pretty close to the time where I thought maybe the podcasters would be meeting, but I wasn't sure what time because I'd totally forgotten and I didn't write it down, which I recommend doing. I wrote down 2 podcasters, or actually 3, that I absolutely wanted to meet, and that would be Jen Geigley and Tim and Mackenzie. So Tim is Inert Wagons on Instagram. He is part of Mackenzie and Tim's podcast called Sibling Energy. Mackenzie has her own podcast called M to the Third, and she is a yarn dyer, a natural dye yarn maker. And she also works at Starlight Knitting Society in Portland. Tim is a Woolfolk yarn representative, and I knew they would be wearing what they were calling their bucket list project knits if they finished in time. I will have photos here of Tim and Mackenzie. I was so starstruck when I saw them that I was like, oh, can I just take a picture of you? And then later someone's like, here, give me your phone. I'm going to take a picture of all 3 of you. So that like broke the ice for me. And at the last second before the photo was taken, Tim's like, "Wait, what's your birth order?" And of course, I was like I couldn't remember. I was like, youngest," and we just laughed so much. It was hilarious. Um, I had so much fun with those guys to actually see their bucket list projects close up. You cannot appreciate the beauty of Mackenzie's cardigan and also Tim's cardigan, his cabled cardigan. It was amazing. I touched the cardigan and the yarn and asked, like, is this Woolfolk? And actually it was Jill Draper's tweed yarn. So then I saw Jen Geigley, which I forced myself to go up to. I mean, I didn't have to force myself at that point, but I asked her for a photo. I gushed. I told her how much I love her podcast and how much I love seeing all the artsy, craftsy maker stuff in Des Moines. And her friend Erica was there. So Erica and I had a wonderful conversation. We got photos. I saw Gail and Laura from the Yarn Shenanigans. We had a wonderful conversation. That's when Kevin and Ray and Michael were there again. So we got to say hi again. Oh my gosh, who else? Oh, I met a designer, just a wonderful human being. I'll put her name up here. She is a knitwear designer, and she had this little lamb with her that was wearing a mini version of the sweater she was wearing, which I was staring at because I loved it. I think it's an upcoming design. She had it done in Knit Picks City Tweed. Oh my God. I felt it and so interested in that yarn now. But she said she has, I told her about my podcast, and she has one too called Hot Cakes, Craft Opinions No One Asked For, but Everyone Needs. And I think I've seen this before, but I'm going to look it up again because she does this podcast with her friend. And I can't wait to check it out. And I hope you check it out too. Hot Cakes. So, my last stop, this was in between things that were happening on the hill. I just walked over to Fiber McGyver because I wanted to meet Emily who is the botanical knitter, and I wanted to really spend some time looking at their booth, which I didn't. I saw that last year, but I was on my way out. And oh my gosh, so I was introduced to Shaniko wool. I hope I'm saying that right, at the Ewetopia booth. Then, of course, once again, also experienced Shaniko wool at Fiber McGyver booth. I took absolutely forever picking out my color. Didn't matter because I had one of the most glorious experiences walking to the left and to the right and talking with people. They were picking out colors for sweaters, and oh my God, it was so much fun. And the warp vest was there. There was a sample of the warp vest, which I'll talk about in my next podcast for a future plan, but it includes intarsia. Oh my God. Yeah. So because I couldn't make up my mind, and because I knew I wanted this particular shade of, again, sock yarn, but because this is a full 100 grams of the merino twist, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, this could also become something else. And I don't know what, but are you kidding me with the color? It's called Roasted Pecan. I took forever. I also saw a sample of a beautiful mushroom sock done in these shades that I couldn't really match up. I'll show it to you here. It's from Stone Knits, and that doesn't have anything to do necessarily with this, but I was obsessed. Yeah, this is precious and just beautiful. But I got to feel their Shaniko like DK or sport weight yarn, and I just couldn't recommend it enough, just based on feel. But I wasn't there. I wasn't in the I wasn't, I knew I probably wouldn't be buying a sweater's quantity worth of anything at New York Sheep and Wool. I just cannot wait to figure out what I'm doing with this. Like I am so happy. And then Emily came up to me. It was very crowded. And she came up to me and said, "Hi, Renee." And I was like, "You know me? Oh my God." And we had a wonderful conversation. She's such a beautiful human being. And I'm just so happy that we get to say hi. At that checkout, I was handed, oh my God, this is adorable. I was handed a match badge with stitch stoppers, with the trailer camper stitch stoppers. Like, oh my God, this is so much fun. Susie is just amazing in her color palettes, obviously in the yarn that the wool that she chooses to use in her dyeing. Unbelievable. Okay, I have one more thing to talk about. Sunday. So Sunday, we were meeting friends to go out to brunch at Hotel Tivoli. We went to Tivoli, New York, a little town in the Hudson Valley. We had never been. Hotel Tivoli, I hope I'm saying that right. If it's Tivoli, then it's Tivoli, but I'm going to say Tivoli, is amazing. I highly recommend their brunch or anything on their menu. Really low key place. Then, because we were already in Tivoli, I knew that it was our chance to go across the river to Socrates and go to a perfect blend because I didn't know they had these pre-Rhinebeck events. Now I'm signed up. Now I'm on her list. I met Jody, the owner. So we went to Socrates and I got to check out this beautiful yarn shop. I got to feel Ito Sensei. I got to feel all kinds of different brands that I haven't run across in the wild at any of our local yarn stores. Our local yarn stores carry tons of different things. It's just that there's a few things at their shop that I had seen on their website that I was like, I get to touch this stuff. Then somebody came up to me and said my name, and it was a viewer. It was a viewer of this channel and my booktube channel, and it was the sweetest thing. But it was so much fun meeting Casey from Cincinnati, Ohio. I mean, it was so fun. And it reminded me, and I told her that because we're in Pittsburgh, I want to get up to like the Columbus, Ohio area or somewhere in Ohio to, I don't know, knit at a coffee shop. I met some people from Steubenville, Ohio that came to Moon and Yarn Craft Room for a craft day. And I think it was Halloween or Christmas. And ever since then, I've always wanted to do some kind of gathering. They were talking about this really cool coffee shop in Steubenville. I'd love to do a little gathering of all of us, crafters, knitters, crocheters, and I don't know, just meet people in that area. So that's something I'm going to give some thought to. So that was just warmed my heart. Then at the perfect blend, number one, Jody is such a sweetheart. It was such a delight meeting her. I came across Cascade 220. This is the yarn that I could buy it from Wool and Company and try it out. But if I didn't like it, I'd have to return it, right? I got to feel it at her shop. I couldn't believe this is the yarn. It looks so big. It's 100 grams. It's so light and fluffy, you guys. Like, I had no idea. Distributed by Estelle in Canada. Is Cascade a Canadian? Oh, Cascade Yarn, Seattle, Washington, family owned since 1987. This yarn comes from Peru. And it says 100% Peruvian Highland wool, muslin free, which is fantastic. It's 220 yards, so I'm assuming this is DK weight. Again, on theme, I got this colorway, which is called Pumpkin Spice. I mean, look at it. It's got all of these beautiful colors. I have a photo of this in the sun that I'll put in here, but I mean, if feels a tiny bit prickly. It feels like the Pearl Soho knitting yarn. This feels a little smoother than that. This is the non-superwash. I don't know. I don't know. I think neckline wise, I'd have to have something here so it's not touching this area, because I like my sweaters so high, so tight. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to try this out, knit up a sample, knit up a swatch, and then feel it. If this becomes something I can use just as a workhorse choice, a budget-friendly choice, this was $11.50. Then this might open some avenues for me. And Jody had the coolest colors. If I could come up with some of the colorways that she has there, then I'll pop in some photos. But I was standing next to someone who was looking at the marled colorways, which I didn't even know they had. We had so much fun picking out a couple colors for her to use together in like a striped thing. So that was my like discovery at the perfect blend. It was so cool. And then we went over to Hudson, because Hudson, New York, it was close to where we were staying. So we like to wrap up our visit, if we can, going to the Spotty Dog, which is a bookstore, and they also sell tea, hot tea, and wine or beer, something, wine or beer. Yeah, just a quaint little local bookstore that I really enjoy going into. So that wraps it up. Oh, what I'm wearing, I'll tell you real quick, because I took this to New York Sheep and Wool in case the weather was going to be chillier than I thought, and also because I didn't know whether I was going to go on Sunday. This is Andrea Mowry's Stripes sweater. I was around when Junction Fiber Mill did their meetup on the hill. That was so much fun to watch. And I wasn't around for Andrea Mowry, but you could tell people were gathering that were wearing the ooey gooey. I saw so many cool versions of the ooey gooey. It was so much fun. But I did see Andrea Mowry in a couple different places. So some takeaways, just some really quick takeaways. Last year I wore a crossbody bag so that I didn't have a backpack on. This year I took my backpack, which I used as my carry-on anyway, to put under my seat, and I just emptied it out and then put a couple things in it. I don't think I'll do either next year. I think I will have a little collapsible, foldable tote. I will wear a tiny crossbody bag. I will somehow it'll be big enough to have water in it somehow. It could even be like a fanny pack. Yeah, because I didn't really need the bag. As long as I can put my snacks and peanut butter and jelly in there, you don't even need a whole wallet, because you're just carrying a card and cash. I had both. Yeah, so I think I'm going to rethink that the next time I go. I have made notes to pare it down. Thank you for indulging me in this Rhinebeck weekend recap. I really appreciate it. Please let me know if you went this year, and I'll see you in a week or two with a knitting catch up. Bye.